Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Career Coaches webinar, The 3 Bs for Better Decision Making, with leadership coach and UCLA alumna, Siria Gutierrez. My name is Joseph Blancas, and I serve as an Associate Director for Alumni Career Engagement at UCLA Alumni Affairs. In today's program, Siria will discuss practical tools and everyday techniques that you can incorporate into your daily life to improve your overall well-being and decision-making skills. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank our Alumni Association sustaining donors. It's with your help that we are able to strengthen the Bruin community with career programs like this. For some general webinar housekeeping, we'll have time at the end of our program for a Q&A with our speaker. So please use the Q&A function below to submit your questions. We will also be recording the session and will distribute it out once it becomes available. Now, to start our program, I'm excited to introduce Siria Gutierrez, who is actually a new career coach with our Career Coaches Network. She's a high-performance leadership coach, helping leaders who want to overcome being overworked and overwhelmed so that they can avoid burnout and love the life that they've built. She works primarily with lawyers, business owners, and BIPOC professionals. She's a speaker, a mental health advocate, a mental fitness and mindset coach, podcaster, and lawyer based out of Las Vegas, Nevada. She does it all. She is a first-gen certified professional coach, receiving her training from the Coactive Institute, respected worldwide as the gold standard of coaching. She co-hosts Pivotal Moments HQ, a wellness and mindset podcast. She knows the power of embracing your full self and empowers others to do the same to build a better world. Siria, thank you for being here today with us. I will turn it over to you to start our program.
Thank you so much, Joseph, and thank you to UCLA Alumni and the Career Center for this opportunity to speak with you all. I'm going to be giving today's presentation. It is a condensed version of a presentation that I usually do called The 3 Bs for Better Decision Making. So you guys should all see my screen now. And what does this mean, right? What is the decision making? What are we going to do? Today, we're going to be going over some breathing techniques. I'm going to teach you how to do some of those. We're also going to do some brainstorming. I'm going to teach you one of the tools that I teach on how you can rethink and maybe approach different types of issues or problems that you may see that are coming up in your work life or regular life. I think it's all related. And then finally, we'll have a discussion on boundaries. Throughout the session, you're going to be able to participate through an app called Slido. When those come up, I'll show you how to do that, and you'll be able to interact and give us some of your answers. You are also going to be able to ask any questions that you like in that Q&A function, like Joseph mentioned. So before we get into all of it though, here's the first slide. This is the Slido app that I was talking about. You can go to slido.com and you can enter number 1527768, and you can answer the question, what happens when we make a rushed decision? I'll give you guys a moment to go there, or you could scan the code. And as soon as you start, we will get different answers popping up. Suboptimal outcomes, yes. Errors, second guessing, unintended, yes. Yes, you make mistakes, all of these things. Yes, when you are making rushed decisions and you are not taking your time to do that, you're not considering the pros and cons. Oh, regret is huge. You get so many bad decisions. Just overall, we know what can happen when we make these rushed decisions and we don't take actual time to work on our decision making. So this is why we want to start doing this. This is great. So there are a couple different kinds of decision making that you might fall into. The first one that I've identified is you might be a life committee member. You might be a life committee member if you're the one that goes around and calls everybody, hey mom, I really need your advice on what to do next. And then after you get mom's advice, maybe you hop over here and you call your best friend and go, hey, I'm not really sure what to do. And before you know it, you've gone to all these people in your life to get an opinion on what you should do, right? And these people, they love you, they care for you, they want what's best for you, but they're not actually you. They don't have your life experience. They don't have your knowledge. And so sometimes something that looks really risky to them might be your right move, but they're going to keep you smaller. And at the end of the day, you're still going to have to make your own decision, because now you've got 5 or 6 or even more options. It's kind of like going to a buffet. You've got way too much information, way too much other opinions. And you're not listening to yourself. Maybe you're a life committee member, or maybe you're not the life committee. You're like, no, I don't talk to anybody about anything because I avoid making decisions. I am easygoing. I don't do anything other than what everybody else wants. You know what? Sure, honey, we can go get tacos. No problem. I have no opinion whatsoever. In fact, I'm so easygoing that I just let everybody around me make the decisions, right? Some of you might be in that avoider position. The problem with being an avoider is that you're actually punting to everybody else. And when they make decisions that you actually don't like, because you say you have no opinions, and we know that you actually do, you start building resentment. Or maybe you start ghosting and you start leaving people and you don't want to interact anymore. Or worst of all, you end up going and participating in activities for years on end, only to realize later, you know what, I actually hate this. I hate this so much. Why am I doing this? And then you have a blow up of some kind where you disappear, you get mad at people, that kind of thing. But maybe you're not a life committee member and you're not an avoider. Maybe you're sitting there going, Siria, you got it all wrong. I'm not any of those things. I make more decisions before 9 a.m. than anybody else does, like all the time. I'm the person who gets called by their family. I get called by my assistants, my supervisors. I make every single decision. Well, you might be a martyr. You do all the things because you lack all the boundaries. And you don't actually trust the people around you, and you haven't empowered them to actually be supportive, because really that's what you want. You want someone to decide, can you just please tell me what you want for dinner? You get exhausted. It's really tiring to be the whole person making the decisions. If you have some boundaries in place, this will actually help you to be able to filter and to be able to decide, yes, I want to do that, or no, I don't. In fact, you figure out whatever that problem is. So it could be any one of those. So now I'm curious. Going back to Slido, which one are you? I want to see what we have here in the group. Are you more on the life committee, or more of an avoider or martyr? Let me know. Let's see what pops up. Oh, 50-50 so far. All right. That's a pretty good mix. A few martyrs. Maybe there's more martyrs in my legal profession. Life committee. Yeah. Got a life. Ooh, that's still coming in hot. Yeah. Life committee. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's part of because you haven't learned how to trust yourself. And that's part of what we're going to do today. We're going to get into being able to figure out, how do we stop falling into any one of these. I'm really curious as to what the other is going to be. So if you were an other and you don't mind sharing, let me know in the chat, because I would love to know what type of decision maker you think you are if you're in the other category. Yeah, we got quite a few avoiders. All right. So how do you stop? How do you stop doing any of this? Well, this actually comes from my legal background more than my coaching. This is what I tell every single person who ever goes into a deposition. The first thing you need to do is you need to pause, and then you need to listen. That's it. So those two things, pausing and listening. So what we think we need to do is that we need to do more, right? And then we need to rush, and then we need to continue to do things. The key is actually to slow down. Slow down, pause, and listen. And so that's where the 3 B's actually come in. So I'm going to teach you first with the breathing. I'm going to teach you different ways to pause. The invitation, if you are able to, is for you to stand. I'm standing at my standing desk right now. And while you do that, talk a little bit about the benefits of breathing. It calms your central nervous system. It lowers your heart rate and your blood pressure, promotes relaxation throughout your whole body. And my personal favorite is it's easily accessed. You have it with you all the time. That's why it's my favorite technique. It's not the only technique to get you to slow down. Whatever it is that works for you, you want to find what that is and know, okay, I need to pause right now. What can I turn to in my arsenal? I have a paralegal who I've worked with for years. And when she comes in and she's really stressed, and I go, okay, just take a moment, breathe. She's like, Siria, if you tell me to breathe one more time, I'm going to strangle you. It's like, okay, I get it. I love the breathing for all of these benefits. If you have not had a chance to read Breath by James Nestor, I highly suggest it. He gets into the neuroscience and more of all of the different benefits that you have from it. It's my personal favorite, which is part of why I teach it. So we're going to learn 3 techniques today. The first one is box breathing, okay? The way you do the box breathing, if you're standing, visually, you're going to make a box with your hand. Okay, you're going to have it go across your body, down, across, and then up to complete the box, okay? So you're going to make the box with your hand. Now what you're going to do is you're going to add a 4 count. So you're going to actually breathe in for 4. So it's, then you're going to hold it as you go down for 4. Then you're going to exhale for 4. And then you're going to hold again for 4. So 4, 4, 4, 4. You're going to go in, hold, out, hold. Okay, so we're going to do that together as a group. All right, I'm going to count us off. And it's just like music, okay? So you're going to breathe in for 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Again. 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. One more. Now you've learned some box breathing. You can do it with a hand visual or not. It's totally up to you. It's just so that way you can remember how to do this. And now that you know how to box breathe, you actually also have something in common with Navy SEALs who use box breathing as one of their techniques to lower their heart rate. So that's the first breathing technique. The next one is belly breathing, okay? So I'm gonna step back here. I want you to put your hands on your belly, okay? And when you do belly breathing, I'm gonna turn to the side. The goal is to make your belly go out, okay? When you take a deep breath, most of us have a tendency to go and do this, and all we're doing is expanding our chest. Well, you're actually not getting a full deep breath because your diaphragm is just expanding. What you want is your diaphragm to go down. That's what the belly breathing does. It allows your diaphragm, which is this elastic band that separates your body cavity right here. You want it to go down, and then you actually get to fully oxygenate your lungs when you do that. So for the deep breathing, okay, I want you all to put your hands on your belly, take a deep breath into your belly. I want you to expand. Let that out. Take one more deep breath into your belly. And one more. I'm going to take one more, and on this last one, I want you to bend forward in order to get all of that excess air out of your belly. Okay, so we're going to take a deep breath. You end up exhaling just a little bit more when you bend over. So belly breathing. So whenever someone asks you to take a deep breath, I invite you to belly breathe. Get all of that in there. And then you'll feel, you can already feel it, right? And so the final breathing technique for today is 4-7-8 breathing. I started teaching this one because, as I said, I'm also an attorney, and the American Bar Association recommends this one for attorneys to use as a way to relax you. It's also a great technique to use if you're trying to get to bed, because you can just do it there, and the point is to get your whole body relaxed. So 4-7-8, it's a very simple concept. You're going to breathe in for 4, you're going to hold for 7, and you're going to release for 8 counts. And you just repeat that cycle 4-7-8. So we'll go ahead and take a breath for 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Release 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. One more time. 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, 4-7-8 breathing. You can use any of those. Now, I just taught you these 3 different techniques. The idea is choose your favorite, or maybe a combination of the 2, and you're going to want to do about 10 rounds. Okay, it's about 2 minutes worth of breathing. You have time to breathe. Okay, the whole idea is to get you to pause and listen to yourself. Okay, so I see a question popped in here. Which breathing technique is most effective? Whichever one you're going to remember and whichever one you're going to lean on. I really like the box breathing myself because I like that pattern and the 4-4-4, making it really easy, but really it's finding what works best for you. That's the same thing with any of the self-help stuff. You got to find the right tool for you. There's a whole plethora of information out there. I like testing out different things. For me, these are the ones that I like to teach because I think they're the easiest for people. But personally, I like the box breathing. That's really where I started. Thank you for your question. Yes, I will definitely share slides with you later. You will get that information. All right, so now that you've paused, you're ready. Okay, now what you've done is you've actually calmed down your nervous system. And now you can actually access the prefrontal cortex of your brain. So the prefrontal cortex is the newest part of our brain that has developed. That's where logic and reasoning lives. When we're in fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, which is what happens when we're all over the place, we're in that state, our body actually shuts down all non-essential life systems. So you're no longer hungry, you're no longer thirsty, you're not horny, and you're not going to do anything other than try to survive. Okay, if you are in a rushed state of mind where you are constantly feeling like I'm being attacked by a bear, but that bear is actually your supervisor, you're going to be in this state. Okay, and you're not going to make the best decision because your brain literally cuts off access to this part. But once you've slowed down, you've taken some breaths, now you have access to your prefrontal cortex. So now that we've done that, I'm going to teach you one of the tools. I usually teach a couple more, but for today, you're going to learn the self-coaching model. This is from Brooke Castillo. It's a really popular method, and it's called CTFAR. The next screen will show it blank for you. But basically, when thoughts come to your mind, you have a choice. You have your unintentional thought that pops up, which is everybody is always doing this to screw me over, or maybe usually some sort of negativity because we have a high negativity bias, versus the intentional thoughts. So what you're going to do is, I see TFAR all the time. I do it on Post-it notes. I've got some over here. But let me show you. You've got the unintentional, and then you've got the intentional model, okay? Unintentionally, let's say, I'm going to annotate this. I'm going to give you the example that I give. Oops, no. There's my annotate button. I don't know if I can annotate on this one. Okay, well, I'll show you here. So in the unintentional model, I'll write it in the chat. For the unintentional, CTFAR, I'll give you an example. So say someone cuts you off, right? This is one, I like to go walking around my neighborhood, and sometimes people will just, they'll do the California stops, they won't stop. And my initial thought, my initial circumstances, you know, someone cut me off. So if that's the C, someone cut me off, okay? This is always going to be neutral. All of your circumstances are neutral. If I were to say someone cut me off, that is no longer neutral. That is negative, right? So you're going to want to make sure you take out any emotion, any judgment, any other things. You want to keep this as neutral as possible. So circumstance, someone cut me off. My initial thought is going to be, how rude, okay? And then my feelings from that are going to be maybe anger might come up. Anger, I might get pissed, all different forms of anger, right? All these different emotions that can come up. And if I'm angry, what's the action that I'm going to take from there? That's the A. A is for action. At that point, what I may end up doing is maybe I flip them off, right? And maybe the result of that is that we get into a fight. That is not a good circumstance at all to be in. So you see how your thoughts inform your feelings that go to your actions and then your results. We don't want to be doing that. So instead, what we want to do is we want to go to the intentional, and we want to focus on that T line. That's the most important part of this whole process, because the circumstance is still the same. So the circumstance is I was cut off. Cut off. Now, the thought that I choose is, I find it funny. I think anybody who cuts me off really has to poo. They must have to poo. That's it. I've been there, right? So what's the feeling that can come from that? I'll ask you guys to put it in the chat. If my thought is they really had to go to the bathroom, what kind of feelings would that elicit? Go ahead and put that in the chat. Laughter, yeah. Empathy. What else? Hope they didn't ruin their pants, yeah. What else? I feel like I need to go now. Yeah, I mean, you might even check in with yourself, right? Your thoughts and your feelings are going to be so much different when you actually choose to think that. So if my thoughts are empathy, if my thoughts are maybe I laugh, or I hope they didn't ruin their pants, what kind of actions am I going to take from that? So ridiculous, no big deal. Exactly. You're just thinking, you know what, actions, I'm probably not going to think more about it at all. I'm probably just going to move on with my day, move on with my walk. And the result is I'm still good. I'm not mad. I'm not spiraling. I'm no longer using that as my excuse for the rest of the day, or to try to use that as my reason to spiral for the rest of the day and be in a negative state of mind, right? You get to choose your thoughts. When the negative ones come up, which they will, if you follow this method, you can start changing those. So now, every single time I get cut off, every single time someone doesn't quite stop at the pedestrian stop, this is what I think. Exactly. You just move on with things. So this is the CTFAR model. And now we're going to move on to boundaries, unless there's any questions about CTFAR before I move on. I'll check the Q&A. Give you a moment. So CTFAR, it's a self-coaching tool to help you choose your thoughts. Now, my favorite is boundaries. I love boundaries. Boundaries are basically you saying yes to some things and no to some things. Now, a lot of times we think boundaries are, you need to respect my boundary that I have lunch from 12 to 1. Boundaries aren't for those outside of you. They're actually just for you. And you're the one who has to continue to enforce them. I learned this one the hard way because I wasn't willing to say no to all kinds of different things. So let me share the story with you. So I worked at a big firm in Las Vegas, and their marketing team would come in and they'd be like, hey, we really want you to meet with these doctors today. Can you come on by? And I thought to myself, I was like, I really don't want to meet with these doctors. I don't want to network with them, but this was part of what I thought was expected. But it was late in the evening. It was something that I wasn't really looking forward to. So I reluctantly said yes. But I was like that. I had my arms crossed the whole time. All of my body language was really clear. My legs were crossed. If I could have crossed my toes with my fingers, I would have done the same thing. I did not want to be there. I was communicating, I don't want any of this. And I just kept thinking, being super critical. Oh, I don't want to be here. Like, you guys are wasting my time. Like, all of these things. It was super negative. And so when I told my therapist about this, my therapist was like, no, you crossed your own boundary. I was like, no, they crossed my boundary and you need to be on my side, right? Like, I was really upset. I was hoping for her to be like, they're so unreasonable, all this stuff. But your therapist never knew that. They don't actually tell you any of this stuff. What she told me was what I'm telling you now. You crossed your own boundary. I really value the evening time because my husband works all day. He leaves at 6 o'clock every single morning. He doesn't get back until 6:37. And so that little space that we have before we go to bed is really precious to me. But I said yes to something when really it should have been a no for myself. And I crossed my own boundary. They didn't know any of that. They just asked a question. And I was the one who was sitting there being salty the whole time. Once I learned that, though, the next time they came in and said, hey, Siria, do you want to go to this marketing meeting late at night with a bunch of doctors and do other things that you don't want to do? I said, thanks for asking, but no thanks. They were a little surprised that I did that. But you know what? The next time they asked me, said, hey, we're looking to do this networking event with these doctors. We'd really love for you to be there. It's going to be in 2 weeks. Do you think you could make some time for that? That gave me a time to pause, to think about it, and say, you know what? That is something that I'm interested in. Thank you. And things were just better that way. So that's my saying no story. But I know that in the group, there's way more wisdom here than I could possibly give. So what is a boundary that you have or hold and why? Let me know, because I always learn so much during these sessions of what people do. So the last time I put on this presentation, someone was saying that they don't take any meetings past 3 o'clock because they know it'll interfere with their ability to pick up their kids. I was like, that's genius. Like, of course, why wouldn't you do that? I have someone else who has a boundary. I don't use social media and prefer to call with a friend or catch up. Great boundary. My partner, he also doesn't like that. He lets me do all the social media. I heard another boundary where the person doesn't listen to anything between their drive and commute and the freeway. As soon as they got on the freeway, then they could listen to music. No work email or Slack outside of 9 to 6. Yes. Not checking work email more than one. Try not checking work email once I get home. Yes, I would invite you to actually just say, I don't check work email once I'm at home. You can be that firm about it. It's going to be okay. I don't respond to emails past 5 o'clock. Yes. Or before 8 a.m. Oh, that's a really good one. I fall into that one sometimes because I get excited about something, so I just want to send it off, but I also don't want to be that person emailing at 7:30, 6:30 in the morning, whatever it is. Yes, there are a lot of great boundaries here. No social media. Any meetings need to be done 72 hours in advance. Yes. I know that there's more in this group. So if you want to put it in the Slido or if you want to put it in the chat, please feel free to do so. But I'm going to encourage you to ask people around you. Ask your friends, hey, what kind of stuff do you do? Like what little rules do you have for yourself, right? One of my things is I really try not to multitask when I eat food. All I want to do is eat my lunch. And I will catch myself sometimes, trying to scroll, going through my TikTok, doing that kind of stuff. It's so much better to not for me so that I could actually taste my food. It'll tell me when I'm full, when I'm not. And yes, being comfortable with saying no. It's a skill that we got to practice. Okay. And if you're in the life committee, which I know a lot of you guys were, saying no can be kind of hard, right? Because you've got all these people here telling you yes, and maybe telling you different ways of being. You got to decide, but no is a complete sentence. And no is really about you deciding what's important to me and what's not important. Or maybe not something that I want to deal with right now. Those marketing meetings were very important for my firm. At the time, it wasn't something that was really fueling me or something that I wanted to continue to participate in a last minute type of fashion. Asking for a deadline and level of priority on a project, yes, those are all great ways for you to have some boundaries. And if you're thinking, I don't actually have any boundaries, start with saying no. I challenge my coaching clients to this actually pretty regularly. I want you to just start listing 5 things to say no to every single day. Just say no, see what it is, because it's a practice. You have to be comfortable saying no because you're so conditioned to saying yes, right? So I would challenge you to at least 5 times a day and just start tracking it, because then you're going to realize, wow, I say yes to a lot of things that I actually don't want to be doing. Yes, no, challenges. Saying yes, but not right now. Being forced to work overtime when my shift is over. Yeah, you got to say no. What do you say to those people who say you're limiting yourself when you set boundaries? It is interesting that they would say that, right? That you're limiting yourself, but actually I would say this. You're setting yourself free because you know where you stand. You have clarity on what your yes is and what your no is. Like I have another little rule of mine is my 90% rule. If it's not a hell yeah, it's a no, okay? I have to be 90% excited to do something. Otherwise, I'm going to say no. It actually gives me a whole lot more freedom to be able to say yes to the things that I really want to say yes to. Like when this opportunity came up, I was like, hell yeah, like of course I want to talk to my alumni. This sounds amazing. Did I, have other opportunities? Sure. There was like, meh, if they're lukewarm, that already tells me I'm not excited about that. Why am I going to continue to do that kind of stuff? So I would say it's actually pretty freeing. So we're almost at the end of my presentation here. Like I said, this is a condensed version of what I normally do. I usually have a bit more here, but I'm curious, what is your takeaway? What have you learned today? I also have a survey a little bit further down, but what have you learned in our short time together? Let me know. What is your takeaway? Got the Slido deck here. See all the typing. Pause to breathe, practice saying no. Yes. It's okay to say a firm no. Absolutely. reframing tool, choosing your context to live in. Yes. How to assert boundaries. Y'all are, of course, you guys are good students. You guys are all alumni, of course. Breathing leads to calmness, CTFAR. Yes, give yourself the time to brainstorm. That is the biggest thing. We don't allow ourselves to do it, right? We're just running around and we're all in this, frantic mode. We don't need to. You absolutely have time to do this. Oh, this is wonderful. If it's not a hell yes at 90%, then it's a no. Yep. That's a huge one. I did that one for a year and life changing. It's one of my favorite things to do. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you all for that. Let's see. If you liked what you saw here, my gift to you guys is actually a free coaching session. It's valued at $6.95. If you guys want to do that, go right ahead. I'm actually not allowed to give free coaching sessions anymore because I'm a premier success coach in the eWomen network. I'm only doing it for UCLA alumni, and I actually don't you'll hear people talk about their free sample sessions. I don't do that for any of my clients anymore because I'm not allowed to. But that's there. If you guys will want it, you guys will have the link for that as well. I am trying to get in front of people and talk to people. So your feedback is super important to me. If you don't mind giving me it's a couple questions. I think it's 5 at most. You don't even have to give me an email list or any of that stuff. I just want to know how I did, what I can improve on, what you like, what you didn't. This will also be in the email for all of you as well. And you can follow me on all the things. We built the Siria on Instagram, not just a lawyer, on TikTok. I post a lot more on TikTok than I do anywhere else. And I did just start an email list, so I have that as well. But at this point, that concludes my presentation. And if there are any additional questions, you can go ahead and throw those in the Q&A, and then Joseph will come back and we'll have any kind of closing remarks. And so I will go ahead and stop the share.
Yes, thank you, Siria. I learned so much. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway was, the breathing techniques and the type of breathing. I feel like I am an overthinker, and I worry about a lot of things, especially as I'm trying to fall asleep. And so to know that there's a way to calm my mind and to ease my anxiety and limit my stress with just 2 minutes out of my day is so rewarding. So
Yeah.
thank you for making that so digestible for us. Like Siria said, we are taking questions at this time. So if you have any for her, please feel free to throw them into the Q&A function, and we will address them, time permitting. Before I get to those, I do have a question just that we received prior to the session in our registration, and it was, how do you make decisions when you are burnt out?
That's the tough one. You actually have to restore yourself, because here's the thing about burnout that I don't think a lot of people know. A weekend getaway is actually not enough to get you back on track. It might heal a little bit, but burnout is basically, imagine your central nervous system, right? You're up here the whole time when you're in burnout, right? Like you're just operating at this level. We're not meant to be going like this. We're not meant to look like a heartbeat monitor. We're meant to be a little bit more of a wave with highs and lows. And so if you're going up and down and you're constantly up here, this is burnout. You need to lower your stress levels, and you need to get down to really get your whole central nervous system down. That's why a regular breathing practice, a meditation practice, walking, whatever it is that you can do to help you with that, because it actually takes years to recover from burnout. So right now I'm in year 3 of my burnout recovery. And I can tell you it's a big difference. It's to constantly be up here and to now just be at a calmer place and really being able to use your self-care tools. One of the things that happens, and this actually happened to me this morning, was my brain started going, and my brain was like, we've got so much to do. We've got this case, like, let's make this do. We've got this presentation, like, let's do. That's what my brain was saying. And so I told myself, I was like, you know what? No, Like, let me get my sleep. The most important thing for me right now, with just the things that are on my plate, is my self-care, is making sure that I get enough sleep during the week, is making sure that I eat a healthy breakfast. That's way more important right now when you're in stress. It's easy to do when you are not as stressed, you don't have as many things on your plate. Of course, you're going to get enough sleep. But that's when you're building the habit and you're reinforcing it. Those habits are for these times when you are super stressed. So if you are experiencing burnout, you're going to have to find ways to get your central nervous system to calm down on a regular, consistent basis and really start practicing these different tools. I'm going to go ahead and stop the share and just answer questions that have come through.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is it's a journey and not a quick fix, and it takes time and commitment and discipline.
It does, but there's hope for all of us.
Yes.
I think that's the best part about all of this. It's finding those things that will help. So, all right, let's get through some more questions.
Yeah, we have quite a few that came in. So Leslie asked, is there a book to learn how to get better at making boundaries? And I think you shared, mentioned a book for breathing, but do you have any sort of resources around making boundaries or establishing those boundaries?
Yes, there's all kinds of books out there on there. I personally like Gretchen Rubin's book, Better Than Before. It's a technique for her book, Better Than Before, is all about like self-help and improvement. But really what she identifies in there is different rules and boundaries that you can do to help you with habit building. There's all kinds of books in the habit industry right now. I'm sure you guys have heard about Atomic Habits and things like that. This was before that. And I really love that she has these 21 strategies for just bundling and creating these habits. It's another way of creating a boundary. So for example, one of them is the tool of bundling. So I only watch The Real Housewives when I exercise, might be an example that people do. I don't watch The Real Housewives, but that might be something that people do.
You're missing out.
You know, that's what I keep hearing.
But
that's what
you know, boundaries.
But yeah, so that's a book that I really enjoy because it's got different strategies on how to do that. And really it's finding what's the boundary that works best for you, and practice. It's all for you.
Great, thank you for that. Our next question is from Sasha. She asks, can you address whether or how CTFAR applies in the context of microaggressions?
Oh, great question. Now, I didn't say this in the presentation, but let me just say it here. A lot of the things that I teach are individual focused things. When you're dealing with microaggressions and when you're dealing with the macro of what can be happening in our different workplaces, implied biases, all of those different things, there might be system changes that need to happen. So everything that I've taught is really more on the individual level. That is not to discount or say you shouldn't look at the big stuff, because sometimes you could be doing all of the things right, and you're just in the wrong place. You're in a place that doesn't fully appreciate what you bring to the table, right? All of your different experiences, all of those different things. So really, when you can try to CTFAR it, but sometimes you may need to look and go, you know what, maybe it's not me, maybe it's the system that I'm in, and I need to find a different system.
Yeah, really deciding what's a non-negotiable and kind of culture that you want to be in. I agree.
Exactly.
On to our next question. We have an attendee who asked, once you've paused, taken a breath, and listened, how do you know what is a hell yes when making big decisions like, you know, what job to take or making a pivot?
Well, this is where coaching can be really helpful, and even therapy, because you got to learn to listen to yourself. You got to learn to listen to your instinct. I get, it's going to sound a little woo-woo, but I get chills when things are happening. Like I got chills throughout this whole presentation because my intuition, that's how I've learned my intuition talks to me. And it's like, yes, like it's my own little, you know, system telling me, yes, you're on the right track. You're doing the right thing. The first coach that I worked with, he would get tears. He would start crying when his clients were saying something. And really, you have to figure out what that is for you. Some people will get that gut feeling. I'll tell you another one that happens to me. My throat starts to close up when I'm doing something that's not in alignment with me and with maybe needing to tell the truth, like that's a really high value for me. Those are the things right here. You're going to learn to listen to your body. So see what your body is doing. There's even some homeopathic doctors that will have people like take medications and kind of hold them. And your body actually has a reaction as to whether or not that might be something that's good for you. It's, you know, I don't know all of the science on how that part of it works, but you really need to learn what is your intuition telling you? What's that hell yes for you? For me, it's those body signs along with just being really excited. If I can't shut up about something, or like it just makes my inner child, you know, fangirl jump up and down and start squealing, I know it's the right track for me. So I know that you know what works for you. And if you don't, start tuning in to listen, because it'll come to you.
Great, thank you. We have another question around a kind of like a book or resource. This one in particular around burnout and recovering from burnout. Do you have any books that you've read that you found to be the most helpful?
Yes, there's all kinds of different things out there. So the cycle of stress actually explains this pretty well. Stress cycle. Let me find the author. They're these twins. They actually put on a pretty good, it's the burnout cycle, beating burnout. Burnout, the secret to unlocking the stress cycle. This is by sisters Amelia and Emily Nagoski, Nagoski. This explains the cycle of stress, and it explains how to basically stop being in the cycle and how to get you further down. That's a really good one for burnout. The other one that I like for burnout is, I'm trying to think, Brene Brown's, she always has some stuff. I'm going to recommend a non-self-help book. You want to get over some stress? Go read something that isn't about improving all of your stuff. Sometimes we just need to actually give ourselves that permission to play and that permission to be in something. When I was studying for the bar, I started reading all of Laurel K. Hamilton's books, and it's all about Anita Blake being a vampire hunter. I needed to unwind. I needed to not be reading like law, not be reading really stress materials, because sometimes we spend so much time trying to fix us. And one of my philosophies is we're all naturally creative, resourceful, and whole. There's nothing to fix. It's just learning what tools actually work well for us. So.
Thank you. I threw a link to one of the books you mentioned in the chat, but helpful advice there. And then we have one final question from Sergio. What are some tips to stop being an avoider?
Yes, stop being an avoider. It's the same thing that we were talking about. You need to pause. And you need to learn to listen to yourself. What are your actual needs, right? And be able to learn how to communicate those. I think that's something that happens where maybe we grew up in environments where we're not allowed to actually talk about what our needs are. And so being able to just assert that, you know, and acknowledge, I actually have a need. I do have a preference. And start testing it out little by little. And then you'll see that the people around you actually appreciate that you have made a decision, that you have given an opinion as to what it is that you want. So that way you're not in that constant cycle, right? Where people are always making fun of, what do you want for dinner? I don't know. What do you want? No, I don't care. What do you want? And you're doing this and that. Make a decision. It'll help, and start practicing in the places where you feel most comfortable, right? You don't want to start practicing everywhere. You want to start with those closest to you, of really starting to assert what are my needs and testing them around. And then naturally that will bleed into other areas of your life.
Great. And then we got one more question. This will be our final question for the hour. I'm currently trying to take a sharp change in my career. How do I curb my anxiety worrying about leaping into the unknown? Oh man, that's a
great question. I'll give you another book recommendation, The Big Leap by Gary Hendricks. It is all about being in your zone of genius. If you're looking at making that change, and that is, oddly enough, one of the main things my clients seem to go through is that they start living in alignment with their values, and they find that the place they're at is no longer where they want to be or what they want to be doing. But in his book, he talks about these different zones. And so there's your zone of incompetence, then there's your zone of competence. That's where, you're good, you can get things done. Then there's your zone of excellence. This is probably where you are right now. This is where you're good at things, you feel comfortable, you're getting really good feedback from your supervisors, like all of these things are going well. But then there's your zone of genius, okay? Your zone of genius is actually uncomfortable because you don't know how to be there, and you got to leap into that and really go in on yourself. And these are the things where only you can talk about these things. Only you can put together that type of presentation. It is so unique to your individual skill set. And it's scary to be in there. Most of us get stuck in the zone of excellence because, again, who doesn't want to be excellent, right? But if you really want to take that leap, it's figuring out what is that zone of genius? What is it that I'm uniquely suited to do and to give in this world? And it'll make a huge difference. It is another book that I highly, highly recommend. I love reading. I'm a big nerd, so.
No, that's awesome. Well, I just want to say thank you, Siria, for taking the time out of your day to be here with us and to share your knowledge and wisdom. I know I'm going to leave today's session making all kinds of decisions and feeling good about them. So before we conclude, like I said, I want to thank you. Everyone join me in thanking Siria for being here. If you want to connect with her, please feel free to reach out using the links she provided. We will also be sending a follow-up email so that you can have access to all the resources that she's shared throughout today's 1-hour session. I also will highly encourage you to complete the follow-up survey that we're going to send out in a follow-up email as well. It will also pop up on your screen once you end the webinar. So very convenient for you to fill out. It's a brief survey to give us more insight into how we can provide further programming for you all. And then I also want to encourage you to join our next Career Coaches webinar, Pivoting to a Better Career Fit. So anyone who's looking to pivot or change their career, we have a session for you on Wednesday, February 15th at noon. So you can register today using the link that was just thrown into the chat. Siria, thank you. We appreciate you, and we're so lucky to have you as part of our Career Coaches directory. Everyone, hope you have a good rest of your day, and go Bruins.
Go Bruins. Thank you.